Hey guys, moving right along. Let's go into the next kind of monster. This monster is going to be the shooting monster. All right. I wouldn't look at this as being like a smart shooter, as in like something you might encounter in like Call of Duty or whatever kind of game. This is more like your classic old style dumb shooter. The kind of character that would pop up, shoot around, go back behind cover, pop up, shoot around, whether you were there or not. It's also the kind of one that's like the turret that would pop up and shoot a few rounds at your guy in Contra or something. That kind of a shooting monster. So in order to create this, we're going to use some of the code from our character and some of the code from our monsters. So let's go to game object component. Let's create another. Let's see here: sphere, capsule, cylinder, plane. We'll go with cube this time. All right. So this cube will be shooting monster. All right. So shooting monster. He's going to be static. We can give him a different color, but I think monster brown should be all right for Mr. Shooting Monster. Change his position back to 0, 0, and 0. Or we'll make him too tall, kind of like the player. And just like the player, he's going to require a spawn point, right? Just like our player did. Our player had a spawn point that controls where his bullets would come out, and so this guy here, he's going to need a spawn point or two for his balls to come out. So create other. Let's go ahead and go to game object, create empty, and so this will go down to our shooting monster. So we have our game object. Let's rename this one bullet spawn 1, and then I want to actually duplicate it and call this one bullet spawn 2, or a better way of doing this would be say bullet spawn right. Okay, and then the second one will be bullet spawn left. Right, lefty, righty. All right, in both cases, what I want to do is set their positions back to 0, 0, 0, and then righty to 0, 0, 0. This way we can just keep everything nice and unitized, and we won't have problems later on. So first thing I want to do is Mr. Spawn left, okay, needs to be on the left hand side of the monster. So let's hit W and move it over. That -1 sounds pretty good. Alright, and bullet spawn right should probably go 1 to the right, so 1 seems pretty good. So there we have our shooting monster here with his spawn left, spawn rights. Okay, just like that. Okay, so what we need to have happen for Mr. Shooting Monster, Playmaker, go ahead and add an FSM to it. Paste template, we'll go ahead and paste our monster drop health. Okay, delete the state 1, and we now have our first part, which is the kill it, die, drop kind of situation. And our second thing is we need to go ahead and add another FSM, and this FSM we want to call shooter. Okay, and the shooter is going to work. It can work off of a number of different ways, but I think this will be just fine if it's a kind of a continuous shooter. We're not going to be shooting that much stuff at a high rate of speed to where it really needs to actively engage the player. If we were wanting to do something a little more proximity based, where it would shoot only within a certain distance of the player and things like that, we could add a second trigger system, which I'm going to go into next with the homing missiles. We'll get to that here shortly, but this is just kind of going to be a basic dumb shooter. And so what I want to have happen is just like we had on our player, right? We have our fire, and then we push the button, and then we have a create object and then an add force. Okay, so what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and say copy this state, go to my shooting monster and paste that state. Okay, so yes, this is from our player. That is all right. What I want to have happen here is we want to have let's go to our action browser, And the very first thing that I want to have happen is let's just go to time, add a wait, and add that to the state. And when it's finished, what we want to have happen is say done. Let's just type in done over here. All right. So we want to add transition done, add that to state 2, which is the actual shooting script, right? And then when it finishes, we want to take, let's say, copy state and then paste state. Do you want to replace? No. And so this is going to be state 1. Let's call this one wait. And then this will be the second one, wait 2, right? Finish event can be done as well. And then this guy, all right, copy state and then paste state. All right, and then this will be, let's call this one, instead of state 1, it's going to be left shoot. And the other one is going to be right shoot. Okay, so it's kind of making a little daisy chain here, and then when this guy finishes shooting, it goes all the way back to number 1, right? So we have our kind of loop-de-loop kind of going on here, where we start off waiting, then we shoot, then we wait a moment more, then we shoot again, and then we go back. And so it's going to be a continuous kind of a loop here. So what do we want to have happen? What do we want this thing to shoot? Well, we could shoot our bullets, which is what it's currently set up as, but I think what we're going to need to do is create a new bullet, a monster bullet. Ha ha ha. All right, so here's our bullet. I'm just going to grab one, put it into our scene here, and I'm going to rename this bullet monster bullet. All right, so monster bullet, its tag is going to need to be monster. It's still going to be a monster, and then we're going to bring it down here. So we now have a monster bullet and a regular bullet. Okay, major differences is going to be the fact that they're tagged differently. Okay, if you look at the playmaker though, monster bullet is still going to have that die script and the still kill itself script and all this kind of thing. We will have to change a couple of things with our monster bullet to make it fully functional, and we'll get to that in just one more moment. But going back to our shooting monster, what I want to have happen is game object, select assets, go to our monster bullet so that it shoots that, and this is our left shooter, so select spawn point, go to the scene, and I want to choose bullet spawn left. Okay, store the object as my bullet, so variables my bullet's already in here, and then it's going to add force to it, just like we did before. Okay, and then the next one is we want state done, and then we want right shoot, so spawn point bullet it needs to be monster bullet. Make sure that's the right one. Go to the assets, monster bullet, spawn point needs to be scene spawn point, or I'm sorry, not spawn point, spawn right, bullet spawn right. There we go. So then we're going to add force to it, and so this should now spawn monster bullets out both sides. Okay, 1 per second, let's say. So let me just scoot this guy over and hit play and see what happens. Well, wait, and then it's done. Oh, it always helps if you tell your wait to have a finish event. And then the same for this one. So let's go ahead and try that one more time. All right, so one's shooting correct and one's not shooting correct. So that one's shooting, right? So is that the left shoot? Yep. Left shoot's working, right shoot's not. Left shoot's working, right shoot's not. All right, so something is definitely backed up here. So here is our shooting monster and our spawn left. All right, so which direction is this? This is -X, right? So let's go to our playmaker, the shooting monster, and where it says add force, so create there, add force, vector. Let's try a negative 100 here. Alright, and the right shoot should be fine here because it should be pointing out that direction, and then shoot them out. Now, one thing I want to make sure we do is let's try something before we do it one more time, in that instead of it being 100, let's just try 10. Make it a lot slower so we can kind of see what's going on. Besides, we want to be able to kind of dodge these things. We don't want to have really fast shooting. Yeah, there they go. Whoa, that's funny, knocking them around. But you can see they're both coming out of each side here, right? You can kind of see it, almost like a monster bullet assembly line. Okay, so that's exactly what we're wanting. We're wanting our monster to be able to do that. The next thing we want to have happen is this monster bullet needs to be able to affect our player. So go to monster bullet. It's tagged as a monster, so I guess it will hurt our player. But we need to be able to change its collision event. So collision event, if it's untagged, we want it to destroy, but we also want to destroy whenever it comes in contact with our player. So we want to make sure if we don't have a second collision event, we want to add a second collision event, and the collide tag with it should definitely be player. Okay, so with the player, if it comes in contact with the player, it should die. If it comes in contact with something with an untagged thing, it should die. As a matter of fact, I'm going to add one more. So I'm going to copy selected action and paste actions before and set this up to be a monster. So if it comes in contact with other monsters, it'll die. If it comes in contact with untagged things, it'll die. And if it comes in contact with a player, it's going to die. So let's see how this works now. All right. So it's kind of moving, it's kind of also bouncing off of me. Okay, I paused it for 2 seconds. What was happening was I still had that monster bullet selected in my hierarchy, and I made the changes and it wasn't happening to the prefab. So again, this is one of those things where you just have to be really, really careful of it. Sometimes it's really helpful to delete the prefab you have in your scene. Make sure you have your prefab, monster bullet, whatever it is, created down here, selected. And if it will not come up in Playmaker, so let's say, make sure you go over to the inspector and then go down to where it says edit, click that, and then when you pop over to Playmaker, you'll see that it'll pop up really nice and easy there. So in this case, now I have it coming out, right? I don't know what that homing missile thing was, but as you can see, it's now hitting me. Not only that, it's also knocking off my health as I get hit. Okay, so that's the basic shooter. Again, it's kind of a 2-point parts. We have our spawn monster with our left and right. Has the same health setup as the others, and has a slightly different version of the same shooting script that we used for our character. And then the last but not least part is we have our prefab monster bullet that we need to instantiate and create as it's shooting. All right, so that's it for this one.